Hi, this is Andy of Andy's Personal Development, and we are currently live in the breakout room. So, welcome, and we love being here for you with quality and value to inspire and to transform. Remember, we are on Apple, Spotify, Google, Amazon, and iTunes. Today, as usual, we have a special guest to share with you for your development and growth and to live your better informed life. So, grab a cup, pull up a seat, and stay tuned for the introduction right here, now, live in the breakout room. Hi, guys. Andy here of Andy's Personal Development, and our next guest in the breakout room, Dr. Marni Hill for the Raro. Dr. Marni Hill for the Raro is an award-winning and celebrated author, speaker, and educator. Check her website, God Came to My Garage Sale. She's a survivor of domestic violence, and she earned her doctorate in education and completed postdoctoral studies at Harvard University. In 2020, Marni won a Best Books Award for her spiritual fiction entitled God Came to My Garage Sale. This is our guest of honor in our, and she's live in the breakout room with us. Hello, my friends, family, and loved ones, and all over wherever you are tuned in and listening to our program. This is Andy of Andy's Personal Development. We are live in the breakout room. Our special guest, Dr. Marni, and we need to welcome her to the stream. Hello, how are you?
Hey, hi, Andy. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you and nice to have you. We are so honored and happy that you are in our presence this afternoon on the breakout room. And we'd love to share the rest of the time that we have with you. And I'm sure that we'll enjoy whatever information that you have to share with us. So again, welcome and thank you for being with us on the show. So Marni,
Mhm.
here's the thing. We know a lot about you because you are on social media and so on. You have been around for some time, and we have seen the information with regards to your accomplishments and your achievements. Is there an untold story, an unknown story that folks don't know much about Marni that you'd like to share with us this afternoon?
Well, I don't know if a lot of people know that I live in the Caribbean
Maybe
because
not.
for my lifetime, I was in the Chicago suburbs. So the
Okay.
last 2.5 years after retiring from a wonderful and rewarding career as a high school special ed teacher for 35 years,
Yeah.
12 of those years as an adjunct professor at Northern Illinois University.
Okay.
I up and moved to the Caribbean. So I am
Mhm.
streaming live from the US Virgin Islands.
Wonderful. Wonderful. You said that you had a rewarding 35-year career as a high school special education teacher. What
Mhm.
was that like for you? What was that experience for you?
Well, it was definitely a calling. I
Hmm.
come from a family of educators. So school and teaching and writing and reading just seems to be in my blood. And so it was a very natural progression.
Yeah.
And for someone who is empathetic and caring, and I want to do for others, teaching was definitely a perfect career for me. And even though I was teaching students of many ages,
Uh-huh.
majority high school,
Yeah.
um, I was also learning at the same time. So it was a
Okay.
collaborative effort, and we made impacts in each other's lives. So it was
Hmm.
just a very natural career to go into.
Wonderful. But you are also a very renowned author with a lot of people endorsing your work and so on.
Yeah.
What got you into writing?
Well, I had a story to tell.
Hmm.
That was part of it. Actually, even before I retired, I always wanted to to do something with writing.
Right.
I would approach situations and think, wow, that's a great story. I should write about it. Or that would make a great title for a book. And I kind of lived my life that way. But after leaving an abusive marriage after 27 years, I ended up having a garage sale because I needed to move out. I kind of lost everything, lost my home, all my
Mm-hmm.
money,
Mm-hmm.
needed to discard a lot of material possessions that were accumulated, which happens when you spend almost 3 decades raising a family. And I've had garage sales before and certainly have gone to garage sales. But this particular one, there were some amazing, magical, mystical events that happened that that were just too amazing to keep bottled up within me. And because of that, and I didn't even really talk about it or write about it in the beginning, but then as time went on, I decided to do some research into spiritual awakenings or divine encounters,
Mm-hmm.
looking at signs and synchronicities. And, I kind of sought out on a journey to investigate this. And in that process, I met numerous people that had experiences similar to mine,
Right.
um, whether it was a near death experience or a spiritually transformative encounter. And I'm someone who really needs to have evidence of things for me to believe it. Even if I, experience something, I want to experience it again and again to make sure that this really is happening.
Yeah.
And so through my research and a number of years, I really got the evidence I needed to be a believer that there's more to this earth, that there really no coincidences. I believe that things are synchronistically orchestrated by divine. Um, I just feel like I'm living proof of that, and I'm validated over and over by other people's testimonials.
Okay. Wonderful. You mentioned your passion and how you came to the point where you recognized things because of what was happening, basically
Mhm,
from your 27 years
mhm.
of experience that was not totally good, and the garage sale that you had to do after. How did that 27 years impact upon your life? And when did you reach to the point that you decided, you know what, enough is enough? I have to move on with my life. How was that for you?
Well, I'm not going to say that everything was negative, but I
Okay.
will say that I was definitely living a fantasy life, in my mind, believing that everything was just fine and that I was with a person who was of integrity, who cared about our family, who would,
Hmm.
not do immoral, illegal things. And I was wrong. I was wrong.
Okay.
I misjudged. And part of it is I wanted an intact family very
Okay.
bad. I really was at a stage in my life where I was ready to nest and to make a home, and I thought I had found the perfect person. And so I went along for a long time
Hmm.
believing everything was just fine. There were red flags even before I got married,
Okay.
but I ignored them like many people do. And I guess my dream of wanting a perfect family just sort of outweighed some of the gut intuition
Hmm.
that I had telling me this is not right, this is not right, this is not right. So I
Yeah.
ignored it. And as time went on, of course, you're raising a family. I was working full time, actually working many jobs.
Yeah.
Um, and just very busy with my life. And so I didn't, I'm at fault for not taking the time to get more involved in our finances to find out really what was going on there, or to really question some of the behavior and excuses of
Uh-huh.
my now ex-spouse. I just didn't do it. And
Okay.
so I have to take ownership in that. But I actually, now that I'm away from all that, I realize that that's all part of the journey. In fact, sometimes abusive people, whether they're narcissists, I mean, labels are labels. I mean, just their
Yeah. Yeah.
behavior, actions really speak louder than words. You might
Okay.
hear words you want to hear, but the actions don't always, go hand in hand with the words.
Yeah.
And but I think that that's all part of our journey. And so abusers really can be blessings to
Mm-hmm.
us. I
Mm-hmm.
almost have to thank the people that were negative in my life, because they contributed to me being the happy, grounded person that I am, today. And so I'm also someone that, even if I'm faced with negativity and challenges and actual betrayal and you know real terrible things, where someone is out in a malevolent way to destroy you, and that was kind of what I experienced. I still have a good heart, and I believe in humanity, and I believe in love, and I believe in goodness, and I'm very hopeful. So I guess I'm sharing my story mostly through writings,
Uh-huh.
um, but to give other people hope if they find themselves in a dark place where they just, are either feeling like a victim or sorry for themselves or angry or hurt or despondent. That possibly my message, even if it reaches one person and gives them hope, then it was worth my time speaking out.
Yeah, that is so wonderful and moving.
Yeah.
Um, you wrote a book entitled God Came to My Garage Sale, and it
Yeah.
is also the title of your website.
Yeah.
That means there is something really special about all that information to you. And for
Mhm.
you to put it out there, it means that you are sending a message. What is the message that you are sending through this book, God Came to My Garage Sale?
And here's a copy of the book.
All right.
God came to my garage sale, and it was amazingly endorsed. Like you said, I have these good endorsements. One of them is James Redfield, who wrote the
Yeah.
Celestine Prophecy.
Yeah. Saw
You
that.
know, but I also had the support of the IONS community, the people that are near-death experiencers,
Mm-hmm.
as well as some psychic mediums. But this book is very important to me. It was my first endeavor with writing.
Okay.
Officially. Certainly, the version that came out in the book is not the original version. We do
Mm-hmm.
edits and re-edits, but in the beginning, I actually was able. It was very therapeutic and cathartic in a way to just write my story. So I originally made the character be me, and to talk about what I experienced. Then I chose, that was very healing, but I knew that that wasn't what I wanted to put out there. I
Okay.
wanted to, I did that for personal reasons. And so I wanted to make it very positive. But I guess, one thing that was very significant is that I was shown signs and
Mm-hmm.
synchronicities, and, so many that I had to stop and pay attention.
Okay.
I couldn't just ignore them.
Mm-hmm.
And I have since found out that signs and synchronicities are all around us for everyone. It's
Okay.
just a matter if we want to take the time to notice them. And I certainly didn't my whole life, but now I can go back. Actually, I have the character go back into her life and remember different experiences,
Okay.
because these are life-changing experiences, and it really opened up my heart and mind and soul that we there's more to this earth than what I previously believed anyway.
Wonderful. Tell me something. If you had the opportunity to change anything about what you have experienced personally in your life, is there anything that you would change, or would you just be happy with what you have accomplished thus far?
That's a really good question. I think that if I could change something, I would be a little bit more prepared for leaving an abuser,
Okay.
because I followed my gut instinct the minute my light bulb went on, and
Mm-hmm.
I knew I needed to escape.
Okay.
And that's what I did. But I think the people that plan their exit a little bit better will do much better. They won't have 10 or more lawyers for, a divorce. They won't be completely depleted financially. They might get involved in understanding some of the things that they trusted their partner or spouse with.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I guess I would have changed a lot of that. And if I had any idea at all that I would lose an adult child to
Wow.
parental alienation, so it's like the death of a living child. If I knew that that would happen, even with someone who was 20 years old and knew, we had a very positive, loving relationship. Um, if I had known that an abuser would use children to get back at, because they want to keep up a false image, they don't like how it looks. In fact, I was threatened by my abuser. Don't you dare divorce me. And if you
Oh,
divorce me, I will take your house, your money, and your children. And that
wow.
was said to me like the second day after I realized I knew I needed to go. And I wasn't even, I was pretty quiet for someone that's usually some free to talk and all of that. I just, the minute I knew, I was scared, and I didn't really know how to navigate leaving. So if I could change anything, I would plan my escape better, because then I wouldn't have been financially devastated. I might not have lost our home. I might not have lost an adult adult child to parental alienation. But at the same time, maybe that's all part of the bigger picture, the journey, because, I firmly believe that God has a plan for us, and that we are loved, and, things are the way they are supposed to be. And, so I would have planned better. Actually, a friend of mine, I've become close friends with Tracy Malone, who has a podcast, and she's a life coach with Narcissist Abuse support. She just came out with a new book called Divorcing Your Narcissist, that gives
Okay.
a lot of support for people that are thinking they want to do this. And of course, it's for men or women. It's not, this isn't a
Right.
gender
Right.
specific thing at
Okay.
all.
Okay.
But that would have been what I would have changed, is just to be a little bit more aware of what I was dealing with. I had no idea that I was dealing with such a calculating abuser, someone that
Wow.
really would um, continue,
Mm-hmm.
to try to destroy me. Like, I filed for divorce in 2013, and my ex-husband still is taking me to court. Even though we had
Wow.
no minor children, even in the
Mm-hmm.
divorce situation, there was no
Okay.
minor children issues, custody. Abusers don't want to let you go easily. And
Mm.
I wish I knew about that more.
Okay. Okay.
But it
And
is what it
is
is.
mhm. All right. But is it because of that and the experience that you have had that you are so now willing to share with people, those who may be in that similar kind of situation and need help, need assistance, need someone to point them in the right direction? How passionate are you about that now at this point in your life?
Well, I'll tell you, not so much to be a life coach, or,
Mm-hmm.
get a counseling degree or do anything
Mm-hmm.
like that,
Yeah.
because I still have a lot to learn, and it's
Okay.
still a journey for me.
Okay.
But I certainly feel that the voices of survivors matter.
Oh,
And like I said previously, even if you can help one person
mm-hmm.
navigate this devastation, I mean, the loss and the fear and the pain and the heartbreak are almost unbearable.
Yeah.
And even for someone who is positive and happy, like I am, it's
Okay.
almost unbearable. And I'm sure there's many men and women out there that don't have the strength to get back on their feet or to
Mm.
put it in perspective. So, what I'm choosing to do with my second big writing endeavor is a 4-book
Yeah.
series called True Deceit, False Love. And so
Mhm.
I've written 3 of those books. The first book, this is True Deceit, False Love.
Yeah.
And it's 15,555 terms on domestic violence, narcissistic abuse, and parental alienation. It's more of just awareness of the terminology that is out there for victims, survivors, medical professionals. Eventually, I would love to see, people in the legal field take a look at this and have a little bit more understanding and compassion of what really happens, because a lot of times the predators, the bad guys and girls, are the
Hmm.
ones that get awarded full custody of their children, or get things in their favor, when really it's the innocent, loving people that are just still shell shocked by what happened, don't know how to necessarily conduct themselves in court, and hand over the responsibility to lawyers who always don't have it your best interest. I mean,
Yeah.
I've got you know I've had different experiences with lawyers. So some very honorable, and are doing the right thing for just justice. Not just, oh, they're on my side. Just honesty and justice. That's all I've ever asked for.
Okay.
But there are certain judges and lawyers that don't have those same values, and it's almost like they re-abuse you.
Wow.
They take advantage of you, and it's very, very traumatic thing to navigate. But
Okay.
anyway, I've put my heart and soul in this other writing endeavor to help other people in the way that I feel comfortable doing. Um, so in this writing, I'm doing that. And my second and third books, which are also prominently endorsed by very, very
Hmm.
well-known influencers in
Yeah.
the recovery community. um, the second book is acrostic poetry, which is informational as well as healing, and provides a perspective from both um, genders, as well as roles, different roles. It could be, children, grandparents. It could be a boss and an
Oh,
employee.
okay.
There's a lot of
Okay.
different things.
Yeah.
And then the
Different.
third book is a
Uh-huh.
workbook for
Okay.
survivors to be able to use a creative outlet to just come to terms with what they've been through.
Okay. Sounds like it's very detailed and has a couple of different departments to it, so to speak.
Yeah.
Here's the thing, Mani, how challenging was it for you to get back on your feet again and to re-identify yourself and basically start all over? Because I'm getting from what you said that you basically had to start from scratch. How
Definitely.
challenging was that for you, and what's some of the things that you learned as a result of that experience?
Well, it was extremely challenging.
Hmm.
One thing that happens with narcissist abuse
Yeah.
and domestic violence is that the abuser will isolate you from
Wow.
friends and family. And actually, that campaign of denigration oftentimes starts way before your light bulb goes on and you decide to make a move
Hmm.
to a safer, more happier existence. And
Okay.
so, victims, people that find themselves in these situations, are oftentimes left with no safety and security at all. No, I mean, you're dealing with your basic survival needs of shelter and food and transportation and employment and that type of thing. That's
Right.
bad enough. But then the abuser can get the whole neighborhood to stop talking to you. Even if
Okay.
you've lived in a neighborhood and you know these people, you've gone to church with them for over 20 years, whatever, it doesn't matter. The relationships are all gone. And if there are a few that hang on, if they're still connected to the abuser, you don't want them in your life, because they're what's called flying monkeys. That they are,
Wow.
that's a term that's used where they're
Hmm.
really kind of just reporting back information to the abuser,
Oh, okay.
and it's
Okay.
all to be used against you.
Hmm.
So unfortunately, you lose everything. So getting back on your feet is a real process. I was extremely thankful that I had a wonderful career, full-time career. So, and I had a degree. So I had the possibility of, finishing out that career or getting other employment if I needed to just take care of myself. Not everyone is as fortunate. There are some husbands that give up their jobs to support the family, like raise the kids. And so then if that wife were to leave them completely, they're left without
Yeah.
having work experience, or
Stay put.
it can be devastating. Those are just some examples. So I would say it's extremely difficult to get back on your feet. And in many ways, I was very thankful that I still had a couple good friends. Actually, one very close friend that I had known my whole life turned out to extremely betray me.
Oh
And
my.
that was shocking. That almost hurt more in some ways than leaving my abusive husband. But there I was lucky that a very close friend of mine that I spent a lot of time with, I was there to support him. He was there for me. And our relationship is based on just honesty and
Hmm.
goodness, and but also a lot of fun. We traveled a lot together. We're there to support each other. And so we decided to move together to the Caribbean to make a life for ourselves here. And
Okay.
so I'm very fortunate. I count my blessings every day. I know that there are others that are not as fortunate, but at least they can tune into blogs, or they can go to a YouTube channel, or they can read some literature or research to just try to help make sense of what they were dealt, their
Yeah.
situation, to see
Yeah.
if they can get on their feet.
Okay. Wonderful, Mari. Thank you for sharing so much touching and personal
Yeah.
stuff. Tell me something. Out of all that you have experienced, and you have experienced a lot, trust me. What is the most rewarding thing for you? If there's one thing that you can take out of it all, what would it be for you?
There's so many things. If there is
Hmm.
one thing, I'd have to say, being a mother
Right.
was the biggest role of my life. And that
Okay.
is, my children, even though one is alienated from me, and I
Hmm.
don't know if I will ever have a relationship again in
Hmm.
this lifetime. But being a mother has been the biggest reward for me, and I think that one thing I'm continuing to do, no matter what, is to stay loving and honest and hopeful, um, and just continue to be a role model. Because once you're a parent, at least a parent with good integrity, and with for all the right reasons. Not all
Yeah.
parents are, some, like abusers, like what
Hmm.
it looks like to have a family, but they don't necessarily care about the children, even adult children, because
Okay.
um that's they're using them more
Hmm.
just to as pawns to
Okay.
destroy, in
Okay.
their weapon, what
Yeah.
they're like weapons. But being a mother, I think, is the biggest joy, and the reward, and that I just um, continue to be who I am. I haven't changed who I am as a person with that regard. So I'm just
Wonderful.
hoping that by my sharing the same values I raised my kids with, with honesty, love, goodness, that hopefully at some point they'll realize that themselves, and that would be something that they would value as well.
All right. I get from that that family and that maternal instinct is really important to you,
Yeah.
and it's a big part of your life, and that's wonderful. So, so very wonderful. It's
Yeah.
touching. and it's warm. Thank you so much, Marni, for honestly sharing with us those wonderful moments. We are now going to go for a quick break, folks, but we're going to be right back with our friend and our guest, Marni, in the breakout room. So stand by for this show, this ad, while we continue with our show. Okay, and we are live back in the breakout room. Thank you for your patience and for standing by, Marni. You
Sure.
have been so kind and generous with your information and your sharing. We have a few more questions for you.
Sure.
And I see that you're also a contributing writer. That's correct?
Well, yes, you mean in anthology books?
Yes, that's right. In the
Yes, yes, I've
anthology. Right.
participated in 5 anthology books. Actually, one comes out tomorrow, and
Oh,
it's entitled, yeah, the other 4 have been out for a long time, but the book that is gonna be released, well, I don't know when this is gonna be streaming, but December 7th, it's called We're All in This Together, Embrace One Another. And I am just so honored to be part of this anthology collaboration with people from all over the world, sharing a story that has made a difference in their lives, but with the common thread of that we are all one people and we should embrace one another, and we're all in this together.
sounds positive and definitely something to look forward to. Tell
Yeah,
me
no, I'm
something.
thrilled to be part of that book.
Okay, great. In all the anthology books that you have contributed to, which one do you think carries the most powerful and decisive message?
Wow. Well, I'm in, and like I said, I've contributed chapters to a number of these books. I would say that there's one book. It's a Blue Talks book.
Oh, okay.
It's Blue Talks presents BLU. B
Mm-hmm.
stands for business,
Mm-hmm.
L stands for life, and U stands for universe.
Okay.
And actually, the Blue Talk series is pretty amazing. And the founder is Corey Poirier out of Canada. And
Mm-hmm.
he's got, I think, 4 or 5 volumes. And he's just amazing with his own work, but also in supporting other people and what they are writing about. And that particular, I'm in volume 2 of that
Okay.
series.
Okay.
And that's also um, contributing to me speaking at Columbia University at New York City.
Mhm.
which was postponed right now, but hopefully in the future that will happen. But
Mhm.
my contributing chapter is going from an atheist to a believer, and that is my real story. And I think that that's pretty significant because it's a real life change
Okay.
to go from non-believing, just that we are here for a very temporary time on earth, to the belief that our souls never die, and that there is an afterlife. And it's something I never really believed in, for most of my life. But um, because of the evidence and all the research and my own personal experiences, I have that belief now, and that was life changing for me.
Okay. Wonderful. Sounds good. Thanks for sharing. Tell me something. What is your ideal picture of the world? And if there's anything that you could eliminate that now exists in the world besides the pandemic?
Yeah, I was going to say, do we have a couple hours here to talk about that? I would say, I'm just a big believer in honesty.
Mm-hmm.
That's a huge value of mine, and
Right.
um, and I see so much dishonesty in our world.
Mm-hmm.
And I would like to. I think that love is the highest vibration, and if we could all operate from the lens of honesty and love and compassion and forgiveness, I think our world would be a much more harmonious place.
Yeah. Sounds good. Sounds good.
Yeah.
That's really wonderful. Mani, if there's anyone that you could point out in your life that has been, a positive, endearing, and contributing force, maybe someone that you would even consider as a mentor, who would that person be?
Wow, there are so many people that I have looked up to, and I've
Mm-hmm.
enjoyed, reading their writings. Even my own partner, Rick, right now, who has been a
Mm-hmm.
big influence in my life. Um, I would have to say probably my late mother,
Okay.
because she was a victim of domestic violence herself, of family
Mm-hmm.
trauma,
Mm-hmm.
and she wasn't as equipped as I was to navigate this.
Okay.
And so it's very unfortunate, and my light bulb regarding her journey didn't really go on until after I experienced some of the things that she experienced. And I actually had a dream visitation from her,
Mm.
which I never would have even believed in that. But and there weren't words spoken or anything like that. It
Mm-hmm.
was very surreal. But I feel like even in her death, I
Mm-hmm.
am gleaning support and love from her, and understanding. And it's almost like, I wish she was here, but she was a very big influence on me as a person. And I love her so much. I miss her so
Wow.
much. Yeah.
Wow. That's a beautiful note.
Yeah.
Mani, the next book that you did, True Deceit, False Love,
Yes.
what is the important message that can be taken from that publication?
I would say that knowledge is power.
Mm-hmm.
So when you are going through challenging family trauma situations,
Mm-hmm.
like I mentioned, domestic violence, narcissistic abuse, parental alienation, any kind of
Mm-hmm.
intimate partner violence of any kind,
Yeah.
terrorism almost. I would say that arming yourself with some knowledge and will help you feel less alone, so that you don't have to navigate this completely by yourself, because
Right.
victims are often left completely by themselves to figure it out, and it's a very lonely, challenging place to be. And so I would say that this series, you know although it's been very healing for me, this 4-book series, I just think it's one of many different tools that some people that are going through this can use to try to not feel so alone and to understand a little bit more what they're going through. And then with the poetry and the workbook, that they can try to express themselves if they, don't have anyone else to talk to about it, and they're trying to make sense of it. So I feel very passionate that this was a calling to do this 4-book series. Like I said, not only for me, but for other people. And I would say, knowledge and information can really help someone make sense of what they're going through, and then take the blame off of themselves, because so many victims, think that they were the problem, that they
Mm.
did this, that they're not
Yeah.
worthy, that
Yeah.
they're not loved because they're not lovable, when that's not really the case.
All right.
Abusers are very skilled and at being manipulative and um, implanting false narratives and contrived memories and just rewriting history, and they're able to convince so many other people, including even the victim, where they are gaslit to question their own reality. So I think that this book series can help provide some clarity and support in a very safe way. You can,
Yes.
if you have this book, these series of books, you can look at it when you're comfortable. You don't have to be so overwhelmed.
Yes. Yes.
Or put on the spot, or for people that don't have a lot of money, and think that they need to go to a counselor or something,
Mm-hmm.
that this could provide some kind of support. And there's a lot of other support out there.
Okay.
Um, I navigated it all myself, and that was hard to do. And
Hmm.
so I wanted to provide at least some kind of tool or creative outlet for others to be able to put one foot in front of the other, to see their way out of this nonsense, this terrible treatment that no one deserves. No one deserves.
Yes. 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 I hear you. I hear you. I feel the passion in your voice, Marnie.
Yeah.
And I, on that note, tell me, there is one thing that everybody has that they consider as their superpower or their super talent, that one thing that gets your eyes glistening and the glow on your face. And it's the one thing that you want to get up every morning and do because you have been blessed to do it. If you had to describe anything as your superpower, that gets your voice all excited, you just love speaking about it, what would that be for you?
Wow. Maybe it would be, I've never really thought about that, but maybe, so that's a good question.
Wow.
Maybe it would be something that I've actually done my whole life,
Okay.
whether it is as a mother or
Mm-hmm.
as a friend
Mm-hmm.
or as a teacher, but that
Right.
would be to try to bring out the best in other people,
Yes.
and help them realize their worth,
Okay.
and give people hope
Mm-hmm.
to that they can have a brighter day. So I think
Mm-hmm.
that that's one thing that I I guess I have the ability to do, and I think that that's something I'm passionate about. I don't really think about it, it just comes naturally. But
Right.
to help people realize their own goals, or their self-worth. It's like when I think about my children, you know um, one of my children, well, probably both of them, have been dependent financially on
Mm-hmm.
their other parent. And
Yeah.
i'm I would rather foster independence in people, instead of telling them you should be in this career, you should do this, or compare them to other people their age or something like that. I like to celebrate who they are, where they are, wherever they're at, and help them find worth. And I think that, in doing that, helping them realize their own goals and their own worth is you need to allow independence. You need to allow them to experience things and fail and navigate and make their own decisions about
Okay.
life. And
Okay.
so I think that's pretty important, and in abusive situations, especially if there's a controller, a manipulator, if there's parental alienation, those kids, whether they're young or adult, live in fear, and they make decisions based on what would please, you know, someone else, when
Mm-hmm.
really they need to realize and self actualize,
Mm-hmm.
to become the best version of who they are, but on their own doing. Because
Yeah. Yeah.
if they if they are able to accomplish some things on their own, then they take more pride in their experiences. It's not like someone else, really deserves the credit. They did it
Okay.
themselves. And
Okay.
I think that's very important.
All right. Okay, well, we are coming to the end of this very fulfilling conversation. Man, I'm having so much fun. I'm so touched. Tell me, what do you see, Mani, as your future going forward from here? Do you have a vision of some things that you would like to see happen? What is your future like? What do you see in your mind's eye for yourself going forward as Mani?
Well, I'll tell you, it's changed over the years. Of course, originally I wanted to live in the home that I raised my children in, and I wanted to be a support to them. And I had dreams of being a grandmother, and,
Mhm.
just that whole kind of fantasy, which
Yeah,
which
yeah.
did not come true and will not
Okay,
come true, most
okay.
likely. But I would say, I guess continue to be a contributing member to society and to spread love and joy wherever I can. In a short term, I'm finishing up the fourth book of the True Deceit, False Love series. I will be
Mm-hmm.
doing that. And at some point, my future, I hope, involves more travel. I've been
Okay,
fortunate enough to travel the world,
okay.
spending a month in India, spending a month in Israel.
Wow.
Yeah, spending a month in Thailand.
Hmm.
I've already experienced those, and there's so
Wow.
many other places I would like to see. So I'd like to hope that some more travel would be in my future. Not only because I love to see other lands and other customs and history, but it's just the people that I connect with. It doesn't matter
Yes.
what color their skin is, what religion they are, what background they come from. People are people, and I just love the human connection. So
Wonderful.
I'd like to see that in my future.
Sounds good. Sounds
Yeah.
something to look forward to. And I'm sure that most of it, if not all of it, would eventually become a reality for you. So, while we are here, I'd just like to remind our guests and thank you all for listening that on Wednesday, the 8th of December 2021, our guest will be Jenny Manion. She's an author, a self healer activist, and a self love activist. Our show in the breakout room will be live with Jenny Manion at 4 p.m. Eastern and 5 p.m. AST time. So tune in for that program on Wednesday, 8th December 2021. So, Mani, you are a guest of honor. Tell
Uh,
us if anyone needs to make contact with you to get more information on your books, on your talks, or just get some good words of advice. How can they make contact with you if you are open for such things to happen?
Well, you had mentioned I was on social media. I previously was, but I'm no longer on social media because I just
Okay.
want to spend time writing. But
Okay.
I would say the best way to find out about what I'm doing and to find out about my books and my, podcast interviews and
Hmm.
that type of thing is through my website, which
Right.
is www.godcametomygarage sale.com.
Okay.
And then on my website, there's a contact form.
Hmm.
And, I have been contacted through that form to speak for speaking engagements or to get involved in um, helping other authors or whatever. But I would say my website would be the best way to get in touch with me.
Good, great, wonderful. And we'll continue to promote that for you. Um, Finally, Matt,
Yeah.
tell me, no, well, tell us rather, what is Mani's parting words to the world? What would you like to say to people out there that are listening to your show, and probably something that they could hold dear to their hearts as a memory? I'm sure you have made them felt so good thus far, but what would be your parting statement as we're about to end the show?
Well, I'd like your viewers and listeners to know that they are worthy. They are worthy of love. They are worthy of compassion. They're worthy of forgiveness. They're worthy of success and to live a beautiful life. And I think that no matter what people's situation is, and we've all gone through many challenges in our lives, and especially the last couple of years, that no matter what challenges come your way, if you handle them with love and compassion and goodness, you will overcome those challenges, and you might even learn from them, and they
Hmm.
might even contribute to making you be the best version of yourself.
Wow. Wonderful. Thank you so much. Well, you heard it, my friends and fellow listeners. Mani has spoken, and I'm sure she has left a stain in your hearts and minds. We thank her so much for being our guest in the breakout room here on Andy's Personal Development. And so we thank you, Mani, for being here with us. And we thank all our listeners. We have thumbs up from folks in the audience. So that means
Oh,
everything has been wonderful. And that's warm and that's inviting. And as we end the show, I'd like to say to you, all our listeners, thank you for your continued support and your commitment. And as we leave the platform at this time, we say, take care of yourself. Remember to stay in peace and stay in love. Protect yourselves, your family, and your loved ones. And Godspeed in all your endeavors. This is Andy of Andy's Personal Development saying bye until next time. Take care now, and thank you for being with us. Hold on, Manny.